The year 1776 dawned bright with the promise of revolution. Across the 13 colonies, a spirit of defiance burned against the distant British crown. For over a decade, tensions had simmered over issues of taxation without representation, restrictions on colonial trade, and the increasing encroachment of British military presence. The colonists, many of whom had never set foot on English soil, felt their liberties trampled upon, their voices ignored across the vast Atlantic. The Stamp Act of 1765, which imposed a direct tax on printed materials, had ignited widespread protests and boycotts. The Boston Massacre of 1770, a bloody clash between British soldiers and unarmed colonists, further inflamed anti-British sentiment. By 1774, with the passage of the Intolerable Acts which aimed to punish Massachusetts for its resistance, the colonies found themselves on the brink of open rebellion. The First Continental Congress, convened in Philadelphia in 1774, served as a forum for colonial leaders to air their grievances and strategize their response to British policies. While some delegates still held out hope for reconciliation, the mood was shifting towards a more radical course of action independence. As the year 1775 began, whispers of revolution were in the air, and the first shots fired at Lexington and Concord in April of that year transformed whispers into a roar. The die was cast. The American Revolution had begun. As the Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia in May 1776, the air crackled with tension. The battles of Lexington and Concord had shattered any illusions of a peaceful resolution with Great Britain. The colonies were now locked in a full-blown war against the most powerful empire on earth. Yet, despite the escalating conflict, the delegates remained sharply divided on the question of independence. Many, particularly those with strong economic ties to England, clung to the hope of reconciliation. They argued that declaring independence was a rash and dangerous gamble, one that could lead to military defeat and economic ruin. Others, however, believed that independence was the only path forward. Led by fiery orators like John Adams of Massachusetts and Patrick Henry of Virginia, they argued that the British Crown had repeatedly violated colonial liberties and could no longer be trusted. They believed that the time had come to sever the ties with England and establish a new nation founded on the principles of liberty and self-government. The debate raged throughout the spring of 1776, with impassioned speeches and heated arguments filling the halls of the Pennsylvania State House. The fate of the colonies hung in the balance as delegates grappled with the momentous decision before them. As the debate over independence reached a fever pitch, the Continental Congress appointed a 5-man committee to draft a formal declaration. The committee, which included John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston, and Thomas Jefferson, was tasked with articulating the colonies' reasons for seeking independence and outlining their vision for a new nation. Jefferson, a 33-year-old lawyer and planter from Virginia, was a relatively young delegate but possessed a reputation for his eloquence and his commitment to the principles of liberty. Adams, recognizing Jefferson's talent for writing, urged him to take on the task of drafting the Declaration. Retiring to a rented room in Philadelphia, Jefferson set to work, his quill pen scratching furiously across parchment. He drew inspiration from a variety of sources, including the writings of Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, as well as colonial pamphlets and declarations of rights. Jefferson's draft of the Declaration of Independence was a bold and radical document, one that proclaimed the inherent rights of all men to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was a document that would change the course of history. The Committee of Five, tasked with the monumental responsibility of shaping the Declaration of Independence, represented a microcosm of the young nation's diverse perspectives. John Adams, the fiery orator from Massachusetts, brought his unwavering belief in colonial rights and a keen understanding of political theory. Benjamin Franklin, the elder statesman and renowned scientist, lent his wisdom, wit, and diplomatic experience to the task. Roger Sherman, a Connecticut delegate known for his pragmatism, provided a grounding influence. Robert Livingston, a wealthy New York landowner, represented the interests of the more moderate faction. Over the course of several days, the committee met in closed sessions, debating every word and phrase of Jefferson's draft. Adams, with his characteristic passion, pushed for strong language that would leave no doubt about the colony's determination to be free. Franklin, with his characteristic wit, suggested revisions that clarified and strengthened Jefferson's prose. Sherman and Livingston, while supporting the overall goal of independence, urged caution and moderation in the document's language. Through careful deliberation and compromise, the Committee of Five honed Jefferson's draft, shaping it into a document that reflected the collective will of the colonies.